I recommend Sutera to not only growers and colleagues here in the Central Valley of California, but to other growers across the world. They offer top quality products to help you grow and sustain a healthy crop.
Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with Pacific Nut Producer Magazine, reporting to you here today at Birchall Nursery. They held an event for their 80th anniversary and had a panel of speakers, including Aubrey Betancourt from the Almond Alliance of California. Always great to hear from you. And, giving an update on shipping and logistics and, our almonds actually making it to their destinations. It's really been a challenge through the pandemic, and it seems like even more in the aftermath of it. And last we talked at the about this issue at the Almond Alliance convention. We were in deep turmoil. We published an article based on that, talking about, in the magazine, will California almonds have a home overseas? And so it was really doom and gloom. But through your efforts and working with a lot of other collaborators, we've been able to turn this thing around, at least somewhat, right? Tell us about it.
Well, we're finding progress, and we have built our own solutions out and built our own solutions forward. It's kind of what farmers do, right? So when last we spoke, you're right. We were in the middle of putting a massive multi-prong approach campaign around getting us what we needed to move product. What we determined we needed to move product was someone needed to convene a meeting with carriers, one. Two, to negotiate two items. One was adequate equipment, so our chassis and trucks and containers, and two, adequate receiving windows. So the boats being available long enough for us to pick up a box, go fill it, and bring it back. Those were our three asks. We rallied not only the public by utilizing a great and dynamic communication strategy led by Outlaw Consulting, but we also then used that and leveraged that with our own internal strengths and educating key stakeholders within the supply chain, so the ports, trucking, rail, and others. And then we also did the kind of the third prong was really putting pressure on our elected officials, working with other national organizations, because almonds are the largest in the world. We're the third largest exporter of the United States. It's not just a California issue. It's a federal issue. So really working with them to put pressure and rally and bring to our cause the voice of various elected officials and various points of government. And the three of those all converged actually literally within days of the last time we talked. And immediately brought to bear a number of the major carriers sitting down with the Almond Alliance saying, okay, what do you need? And how do we do this? And what that has done is opened a dialogue between us, the carriers, rail, trucking, and the ports. And now we're looking at a multimodal, multi-port option. So we looked at it in terms of if the boats won't come to Oakland anymore and we can't entice them back to Oakland for whatever reason, then we need to go to the boats. So how do we do that? How do we make sure that we don't get stuck in traffic and congestion at the ports, whether that's Los Angeles or Long Beach or Houston? Well, we can do that if we go on rail, because rail goes direct on dock. So now we brought in partnerships from Union Pacific, BNSF, a number of rail spurs that we identified that now gets us away from the congestion at the port. So what's happening is the empty containers are being evacuated from the inland out to the ports, and they're stopping off at our locations where we have closer access to adequate equipment. So now we've got the equipment. And now how do we get on the boat and make sure we have that receiving window? We go to where the boat is, not where we wish the boat would go, and we get on there then. So is it perfect? No, it's clunky. It's been, I've learned a lot about shipping in terms of needing to maintain volumes, but having that connection and that relationship with those key stakeholders within the supply chain is critical to them understanding how better to serve us and how we can be better customers to them. And in that, we're designing solutions that work for us. So it really is about putting more Legos on the table so that our handlers and our members in our industry can solve problems for themselves, because these outside forces, we can't control those. So we need optionality if we are going to have resilience in order to continue to move product.
And over the summer, things did improve quite a bit, right?
Yeah, it was surprising. So immediately we saw May and June were the two largest shipping months of almonds in the history of almonds, over 250 million pounds each month. I think we had 278 million pounds one month. And then again, outside forces hit us. There was a strike at the Port of Oakland. An interesting fact, for every 1 day a port is down, it takes a week to ramp up. And so for the port to be shut down for 5 days meant it was going to take 5 weeks to get back to full capacity. Immediately from that moment, we didn't weigh in on labor. We didn't weigh in on any of that. What we did is we called the rail and we called the shipping lines and we said, guys, we need to shift our allocations to Los Angeles and Long Beach, wherever those boats are, stop them there and we'll come to you. And instantly we moved product and rearranged and reset, and they were good partners and allowed us to do that. And we found those other options. opened them wide up. Said we need to be operating out of not only LA and Long Beach, we need to be operating out of Houston and out of Norfolk and out of Savannah and out of Newark, and thinking globally across the country in terms of where we move product out of, not just off of the West Coast. That did a couple of things. I think it helped us culturally be thinking about these options becoming available. It also helps starting to bring the price back down into normalcy. Now, not normal pre-pandemic normal, but what a new normal might look like as they continue to use. And that's really the key to all of this. So that month of July nailed us, and then boom, right in August, we were back over 200 pounds again, August, September. So we actually, if we had kept on pace at that 250 million pound mark in July, we would have been right on track as if it was a normal year. We would have moved our entire carry out from the year before and been on pace for a normal year this year. So we know it works. We know that we can kind of sell through the harvest, sell through the supply, keep moving product. That's what we're trying to do, just keep moving product, keep opening up more options, whether it's port or mode of transportation. We're listening constantly to our members in our Tiger team, soliciting from them, hey, what are the next services we need open? You know, now we're looking at Europe off of the East Coast with Hapag-Lloyd, so we've brought more carriers to the table. And you know, we're now even adjusting for congestion we're seeing in Houston, so now we're shifting to Savannah. So it's having that information, by having those relationships, communicating that back out to our membership, and then letting the membership do what they do.
Well, that's outstanding. Thank you so much for your efforts. I know it must have been just a massive headache for not just you, but all of our processors and the shippers. And so just building these strategic relationships, I think, is critical for the future as well. So it's going to pay off in the long run. Hopefully you don't have these severe issues ever again.
Well, if we do, we now know who to call. And on top of it all, we're building a solution from our perspective, not waiting for someone to hand us a solution we have to use. So I think that's actually the bigger opportunity here. It's clunky to start, like all things are. And eventually what becomes practice will find itself a pattern, and those will be the services that we use. So we're moving in the right direction, stick with it, and we will design the future we need.
And what a great example to act and not be acted upon, simply because that's the easy way out. Yeah. You know, and there's so much that we don't have control over, but I think you said today that we can do more than we know. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
So thank you so much for taking the time in your tireless efforts at Almond Alliance. Read more about these things in our publications, which, by the way, she's going to be talking more about this at our upcoming trade shows or expos. So the Grape Nut and Tree Fruit Expo on November 11th and the Tree and Vine Expo on November 8th. So be sure to come see her there, and we'll see you soon. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.